Hey everyone, this is Evan, the blind strength coach with Can Enable Fitness, and today we are talking about blind powerlifting and the strength conditioning needs that we need to consider when pursuing this sport with a visual impairment. Now, this is take two, admittedly, because I had way too much to say and really got on the road rambling. So I do have a lot to say about this and have a lot of different thoughts, especially since it's so tangential to my strongman training, because just getting big and strong, especially in the big three, squat, bench, and deadlift, is incredibly important and has a lot of transfer over to then being able to do some strength athletic things, such as carrying sandbags and yokes and all that fun stuff I have to do in strongman. So I have to overthink a lot of this stuff and can talk all day about it. If I don't cover something that you want to ask about, make sure to comment in the comments below, and also please support the channel by subscribing and liking for a lot more content like this, especially in the strength conditioning for blind sports series. Okay, let's hop straight into some of the considerations, and I'll try to keep it kind of brief. But again, if you have any questions, definitely ask. I was a professor for 4 different years and am able to get on the road talking about this for a real long time. So number one, grips. We need to make sure that we have good, consistent grips and use the knurling of barbells in order to understand where we are in space and make sure that we're having good, consistent setups. So we need to make sure that for safety's sake and then also for consistency's sake, we're doing the right thing. If we use different variations on the bench press, so we have our normal bench, we have like a close grip bench and then a wide bench, we need to make sure that we're having the right grips to make sure that we are doing that properly, getting the right stimulus, and then training the appropriate things. It's also going to be incredibly helpful for putting our feet in the right position on the deadlift. If we have our hands in the right position, we can feel where our legs and our feet need to be relative to that. I'm not lining my legs up with the barbell, I am lining my hands up on the barbell and then my feet with the barbell when I'm about to deadlift. That is the proper order. I've even had sighted people who get way more consistent when we just lock in where their hands go on the bar and then their feet fall into line a lot more, because you know where your legs are according to where you're reaching straight down or having to be slightly tucked in, perhaps if you're doing sumo or something like that. Or if you have even like a snatch grip, then you know consistently where you are doing that in order to maximize the consistency and then efficacy of that secondary type of lift. Now, when we're thinking about the grip on the squat, it may not seem like it's all that important, but it's going to really anchor your upper back and make sure that you're nice and consistent, but it's also going to tell you if your head is asymmetrical or not. So we have to make sure that we are having nice consistent hand placement to have optimal upper back tightness, but then also make sure that we're putting it symmetrically on our back so that we're safe and effective. Now, moving on. We're going to have our setups. This is going to be based off of the grip, the next step, making sure that our setup is appropriate on the bench. We're nice and consistent with that. We know where our arms are reaching up and grabbing the bar and then operating in that space. And then also like where we have our shins, how close they are to our deadlift bar for our setup there, and then also unracking and re-racking the barbell on squats to make sure we're safe, consistent, and not spoiling a lot of energy. I had a client recently who he's visually impaired as well and was walking a squat forward out of a rack instead of backing up and going way too far, kind of getting lost in space, refinding his balance, then hitting the set, and then backpedaling it back in. So you can see that there's a lot of safety concerns there, but also we're wasting and leaching a lot of energy. He was taking up most of his 45 seconds where he was supposed to accomplish 8 reps, rest the rest of the 45 seconds, and then rinse and repeat. And most of that was going towards the walk out and the walk back in. So he was having next to 0 rest. So it's really going to take a lot away from your session if you're not having these standardized setups that are condensed and comfortable. And then when those get more and more familiar, we're then able to just focus on effort and making sure that we are able to optimize our weight, our sets, our reps, all the actual programming things, because our grips and our setup are so good. Next is going to be posture. So as a visually impaired community, we don't tend to have the best posture. We tend to be more sedentary. If we have small vision loss, then we tend to be leaning forward, trying to look into stuff. And then if we're completely blind, a lot of people tend to really tuck that chin down and have really poor posture there as well. So making sure that we have neck, upper back in proper alignment, and we lessen anterior pelvic tilt, make sure the front of the hips are healthy and not just super tight all the time, which would be pulling on our pelvis, messing up our low back, deactivating our glutes, things like that. When we get those things locked in as a big emphasis, especially early on in training, then we're going to have less postural malformities. We're going to be able to operate better in our everyday life, but then we're also going to be able to maximize our efficiency and efficacy getting really redundant there, on our lifts. Our lifts are going to be better and we're going to be stronger because we don't have these postural malformities that are going to hurt us in everyday life and limit our recovery as well. Then last is capacity. This is basically, don't just get to be a big fat power lifter, right? We need to make sure that we have the capacity to walk up and down the stairs. We need to make sure that we're able to have a broad enough base of physical fitness to then be able to recover. And then also, if we think about weight classes, in normal everyday powerlifting, it's usually the person who comes in less injured and the person who is able to carry the most amount of muscle mass in a given weight class who tends to be most successful. That's what everybody is really aiming for. Maxing out a weight class by not adding just a bunch of extra fat and being super out of shape, but instead being in optimal shape to be able to recover and have good repeatable workouts that then you're not getting injured by, and then also able to maintain a lot of muscle mass for that weight class. So consider that in your training as well. Make sure we're doing things nice and versatile, not just a bunch of singles and eating whatever we want. Instead, focus on some good body composition, which is kind of a hot topic in the blind community because it's kind of, oh, why should I worry about that? Because I can't see it. It is going to be an indicator of your health, your ability to recover. And then, Mitchell Hooper, the strongman, talks about how if you're healthier, you're probably going to be able to get bigger and stronger. So make sure that you take that into account and have well-rounded training, peaking at the appropriate times. And if we do, again, have that really wide base, think about Chad Wesley-Smith from Juggernaut training, he focuses on a wide base and then having hypertrophy, then strength, and then peaking blocks in order to make sure that you have wide enough of a base to come to the best peak possible. Again, if you have any questions about this stuff, this is what I do for a living as a blind strength coach. You can email me about one-on-one training or strength coaching for different blind sports teams at canenabledfitness@gmail.com. And then please stay tuned. Again, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff here on YouTube in order to help support the channel, and stick around to be able to watch more strength conditioning training needs series for people in different blind sports.